If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Central Valley Talk, and welcome to Ray John's American Patriot. This week's American Patriot, as you well know, every week we do a special on an American unsung hero type from different wars. We're not going to always do the wars, but we're going to stick. I want to go through all the wars, and this week we're still on the Civil War, and it's a Native American. This man is. His life story is what classic novels are written about. Eli S. Parker, you might look him up. He was a colonel. He actually wrote the terms of surrender that ended the Civil War. Very interesting man. He was instrumental in several raids that were successful under Sherman, I think, and he is one of only two Native Americans who reached the rank of Brigadier General. So this week, our great American patriot is Eli S. Parker. And, of course, my favorite American patriot.
How you doing, Ray?
Right here with me. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, doing good.
Gary's always got that smile on his face, you know. I don't know if he knows things that the rest of us don't know. I think that's part of it. What's up, buddy?
Well, you know, you got plenty of time to be sad. You might as well be glad.
Yeah.
You know?
I'll go along with that.
You know. Well, there's quite a bit of it.
But you know, Gary, things are getting better. I can see it. I know you can see it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, things are getting better. And you can see it. I mean, you can not, and I'm not just talking about the economy. The attitude of the people is getting better.
Yeah. Well, people are becoming more and more informed, or I should put it this way.
That's what's doing it.
There's people that quite frankly, didn't pay any attention. You know, I call them, well, they're called low info. It doesn't just means they don't have a lot of information.
Yeah.
Well, there's fewer low infos as more people are becoming aware. Yeah. And that's all it really has to do. It has nothing to do with how smart you're supposed to be or educated or anything.
Yeah.
It just, you become aware.
Yeah.
And I notice that too. You know, I notice that when I go different places, people will talk about things that 2 years ago they never even would have mentioned.
Of course, everybody talks to me because I got a Trump shirt on.
Yeah. But there's a lot of things that we all have learned that we didn't know. And
absolutely, I've learned so much in the last 2 years. It's amazing.
Right.
It's just amazing.
Well, I just learned something today that I didn't know
share
existed.
that with us.
And I will. And it has to do with the deep state, which I didn't know what that meant until recently, right? But there's something that they call the shadow government. And I just ran across it today, and I've heard.
You come up with the greatest stuff. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I hear the shadow government, but I didn't know what the shadow government really is. The shadow government, you see, and you can look it up. I mean, but what it is, it's 500 attorneys.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. And those 500 attorneys have no responsibility to anyone. They cannot be fired, and they are picked, and they're all attorneys. And they run the government. They determine their own salary, which is, for an example, if you was in that member, it's got a name, it's called the SES.
SES?
Yeah, and if you were in that, one of the attorneys, your starting pay would be more than the starting pay for the Vice President of the United States.
Whoa.
500 of them.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I just ran across it today, and I'm going to do some more research on it.
Doesn't the Vice President makes $400,000 a year? Doesn't the Vice President make $2?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that's right.
Right, and they.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and
that's the lowest, huh?
Yeah, and that's all attorneys, every one of them, and a couple of names you're going to be familiar with. One of them is OHR.
Oh my God, yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, these people cannot be fired or anything, and they're selected and they become part of that SEC, and they never leave. I mean, and they determine how all these departments and so forth, they determine who gets what in terms of money. They make decisions that are way beyond anything any congressman or senator ever thought of making. They have a greater impact. And like I said, I just didn't get a chance to really dig in and read more about it. But it exists, and it has existed for quite some time. I forget how many years, but it's quite some time.
I am totally, completely shocked. I had no idea.
Well, so was I. And I think so would be a lot of American people if they understood what the shadow government.
Of them?
There's 500. And there is not one exception in terms of every one of them is an attorney.
How do they must have a system, like a chairman and a...
Oh, they must have within that. It's a very, closed-mouth organization. But they determine our policies, and especially where the money goes into these departments, who gets what and who doesn't get what, and all the rest of it. And it's all it's a branch of government. We have the branch, which is the Congress and the Senate and the President, and we have the judiciary branch, and we have the different categories with the Senate and the Congress, right? This is one by itself. And they have more power in determining what is going on than what any of these branches do. So I like I said, I just ran across it today, and I'm going to do some more research on it and find out if I can. Now they're very closed mouth, and once you become one, you're there for life, unless they figure out a way to kick you out or will have a reason for it.
Man, what you just told me sounds like something that's totally unstoppable. I mean,
it is unstoppable.
I mean, how in the world?
Presidents can't fire them. I mean, and they are such, and they, like I say, they control the money as far as what department gets this and that, and it goes on and on. And it's scary, when you begin to realize that exists, and it's very, SES, and then it says you'd be surprised the number. And there's other names that we know of that are in that, but the one that I remember
You're just looking into this now, right, Gary?
Yeah, I just looking into it.
I'd be interested in doing another show talking about that.
Sure. So that was interesting.
That is a shocker.
Yeah, because I heard of shadow government. You see.
But it's actually called that, the shadow government?
Well, they don't.
Well, it's
they call it. Yeah.
What is that?
I don't. I mean, they said what it meant, but I don't remember. It's all I got out of it. That was early this morning when I ran across it, and I did recall that one of the members of that group is OR, and it's not so. It's something you get picked to be in. You don't volunteer to be in the SES and so forth. So anyway, that was kind of something new for today for people to think about who are watching.
Certainly something for me to think about it. I had no idea.
Yeah,
I'll look them up.
And we'll find out more about it. I'm going to do the same, Ray, and then
we'll talk about it. Maybe because
that
is really an interesting piece of it, of news right there.
Well, I have never even heard of it. Have you? SES?
Not at all. No.
I never heard of the fact that it's comprised of 100%, 500 lawyers, and none of them are the elected officials, but they are the shadow government within the deep state, which determines how this country goes, and different people do different things as based on what they decide. It is scary, and I don't know.
It's very scary.
I don't know if and how or something like that it could be disbanded. I don't know how you would destroy it, and
it's to me at this point, looking at it, it would be utterly impossible to.
That's what
they can't fire themselves. I mean, they can't be fired. They can't. So that means they can't be dismantled. You know, I mean,
I don't know how you get
can they
rid of
be
it.
held accountable as a group? I would
don't-
think so.
I would think so, but I don't know that either. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know how pervasive their actual control over judges, over politicians, over corporations. I mean, there's no, like I said, they're all attorneys, but do corporations have an attorney that is in that group?
I would bet there are
I
some
would bet there are.
some
Yeah.
major companies that would.
Exactly.
Oh, I'm certain of it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of our homework. Let's put it that way. You and I both.
Good. I will look forward to doing that. I
You
will.
know,
That's
Let's find out more about it. I mean, I even got to the point I said, well, this can't be true. Maybe this is just fake news or something, and I'm willing to accept the fact that it may be, but they mentioned names.
I'm going to ask you, do you want to talk about White Apple this week?
Well, I was thinking maybe closer to the IRS, but what I wanted to talk about was what a little bit, and we'll go from there. At first, anyway, I'd like to talk about what went on with our signing of the Omnibus Bill today. Are you familiar with what's going on with that?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay. And so I learned a lot with that I didn't know. We have what I thought.
Oh, I did too.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, excuse me. We had what I thought was a budget. I'm thinking budget
Yeah.
all this time. Well, the Omnibus Bill is not a budget. The Omnibus Bill is a spending bill. And I wasn't aware of that much of a differentiation between the budget
I wasn't
and
either.
that.
I was thinking of other things I learned, but that's something else. Good.
Okay, now the budget goes back to, it's in the Constitution, and the rules and so forth. But they came up with this omnibus bill, and I want to say 1921, which gives it a different designation. Now, one of the things that like I say, I don't know how much of this, I haven't had time to really get in to see how much of this is actual, the way it is or not. But here's the thing that might surprise you. Congress has not passed Congress and the Senate, or the all branches, that we have not had a budget, which comes from Congress, because that's the one that spends the money, right? That Congress has not had a budget in 10 years.
No, I didn't know that.
I didn't either. So Obama, entire 8 years, never had a budget. All he had was omnibus bills. Okay, and then Bush, the last 2 years of his presidency, there was no budget. And of course, Trump, obviously, there's no budget.
Yeah.
Okay, and what I could tell the difference in it was the budget has to do with the Constitution, and the omnibus bill is not a constitutional function or a rule or law or whatever.
Okay.
Okay, so so what is the difference? I imagine there's several differences throughout that, but one that caught my attention was when you pass a budget and they designate money to go to certain things, right? It could be this department or this for roads. That money has to be spent on that.
Specific thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a budget.
Yeah.
Okay, now the omnibus bill is different in that you could, it basically boils down to the word suggestion. Congress can write the suggestion where all this money goes, but it's at the discretion of the president as to where it is actually spent, or even if
That's
it's
under
spent
an
at all.
armistice, under an armistice.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Now, that's the way I'm understanding this, okay? So as an example, as a fact, there was money that was allocated during the Obama administration to be spent in certain departments or certain areas, okay? So what happened, though, was Obama would spend the money somewhere else. Well, and I say Obama, I'm sure George Bush, same thing.
Yeah.
Or anybody else
Yeah.
all along the line, okay? So let's say you got $10 billion is going to be spent over here, to build this, and then you decide as the president, well, no, I'm not going to spend that $10 billion over there. In fact, I'm not going to spend any of it. Or I'm going to take and spend part of it
Over here.
here. And they can't do that with the budget. But they can with an omnibus bill.
Yes, I didn't know.
Well, I didn't either. Okay.
That is really, really interesting.
So these are things that we're finding out, you see, which most people, of course, don't know, including ourselves.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Okay, so now let's think about that for a minute. So this, okay, let's say you're a congressman from Fresno, and you have this pet project that you want to see money allocated to that. So you go around here from Fresno, and you know that your constituents want this to be done, okay? So obviously you put that in the bill. And so from the standpoint of your constituents, you did get that in the omnibus bill. You got it passed,
Yeah.
okay? So everybody's sitting around all excited because our Congressman Ray Johns got us this $1 billion so we could build this whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know. All right. So, or fund whatever it is, Planned Parenthood or some pet thing, right? Okay, so all of a sudden though, what happens? You heard the expression that the congressmen, they all talk and they get there, they don't do anything.
Yeah.
Well, this is one reason why they don't do anything. Okay, because they can't do anything. Because what happened is that money was allocated to come to Fresno, but the president decided to put that money somewhere else.
Whoa, yeah.
Or somebody decided.
Yeah.
Which could be that 500 attorneys.
Could be.
Could be. Okay. So from the standpoint of you getting reelected, you come back and say, "Hey, I voted for this and this and that," and well, you did, but you was the only congressman back there that did. You see, and you got it in the omnibus bill. It's in the bill, but the money never got funded. And so then it comes in the paper that Ray campaigned on this, and by God, he got it in there and approved, and it's in the we think budget, but in that bill, but it never gets funded because the money was used somewhere else by somebody else. You see how you were used?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, major difference.
But you see how you also covered yourself back here in the sense that yes, you did get that in the bill, and so you, in your campaign, you say how you did this and how you did that for Fresno, but it doesn't get billed.
Yeah.
The money went somewhere else. That's the difference between a budget and an omnibus bill. Now let's say that it was a budget and the money was allocated in a budget.
It's got to be.
Then it's got to be spent here.
Yeah.
And that's really the difference.
Oh wow, that is very interesting, Gary. Very.
And the money doesn't. And Obama was proof of this because over and over, money that was supposed to go here, supposed to go there, would go somewhere else.
I was reading about the infrastructure the other day. His infrastructure, where he was given close to $1 trillion, like 900,000, and only 30% of it went to where it was supposed to.
That's a perfect.
And Trump was given like 2/3 of that.
Yeah.
And already he's used it every place he said he was going to use it.
Right.
You know.
Well, there's a perfect example of the difference between a budget and an omnibus bill. Okay, in that case alone, that omnibus bill, Obama was able
Sure he was.
of doing something he could not have done had it been a
budget. Yeah.
Got it. You got it.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. Okay, so we go to this particular omnibus bill that Trump signed today, and a lot of people wanted him to veto.
Yeah.
And all his supporters wanted him to veto it. Okay, so we'll talk about that a little bit. Because there are a lot of upset people. But let's go back to that again. And what is the reason that he had to do what he had to do? And most people miss that by a mile. Is that, number one, if he didn't sign it and vetoed it, it would shut down the government.
Yeah.
Okay, now...
And I read that. That was it.
Yeah, he'd shut down the government. Possible. Okay, then you have to look at, well, if he signs it, it's going to create $1.3 trillion additional debt. So now look at his choice. Either I shut down the government or I accept this $1.3 trillion debt.
He had no choice.
So it puts him in a no choice in this sense. However, there's a hardcore bunch, of a big percentage, that wanted him to veto it. But can you imagine the chaos and the pandemonium that would
shut down the government?
To shut the government down. I mean, somebody said there was an EBT card that just got canceled.
Yeah.
Or somebody that's, you're working for the government and you don't get a paycheck.
Yeah.
So my to me, it turns out to be, in a way, a no-brainer in this sense.
Yeah, exactly. He had no choice.
Well, he had no choice. So then he sits there, and you could feel the fact that you don't have your paycheck in your wallet. Mm-hmm. You feel that.
Yeah.
You could feel the cancellation of EBT card, or you could feel the cancellation of a park you had plans to go to.
Yeah.
I mean, there's us all over the place. You're going to feel it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what you will not feel at all. You won't feel that 1.3 trillion.
Well put.
And keep this in mind. Trump they're going to use this to every advantage they can. How Trump added 1.3 million to the national debt, right? But think about this. Trump's a piker. He's added at this point, he's added 1.3, we'll call it 1 trillion. He's added 1 trillion once. Mm-hmm. Obama did it 10 times.
He did it 10 times, that's right.
See?
He did it 10 times.
Okay, now, as Obama kept adding a trillion, which he's done 10 times in his presidency, which Trump's got a lot of catching up to do if he's going to keep adding a trillion like Obama did. But the point is that if Obama added 1 trillion, where was all the outcry and so forth in? There was none, right?
No, absolutely.
Because you don't feel it.
Yeah.
And the only reason why there's a lot of outcry right now is because there is such an effort to get Trump on any and every little thing.
Absolutely. Everything.
Yeah,
everything.
And his enemy, he's got a number of them, of course, but one of the enemies that is very disappointing, and people have to realize that, is one of the biggest reasons that he is having so much trouble with things like, everything. He has to fight for everything.
Yeah.
Like the wall is an example. I'll just use that one example. The reason is not because of Democrats. The reason is because of Republicans. You see.
Prominent Republicans, too.
Well, we're talking about the uniparty Republicans. Yeah. These are the established elite that are bought and paid for.
The Bushes are all a member of that.
They're all a member of that.
You know, and they do not like Trump at all.
Well, it's a question of there's a list of them, and it's like Lindsey Graham, like what's his name, Paul Ryan, McConnell.
Yeah,
these are all anti-Trump people, and they'd like to see him out of there.
Yeah.
So who are they siding with? They're not siding with Trump. They're siding with the Democrat elite, and of course the Democrat Congress bought and paid for it. To give you an example, and we'd mentioned it before, but just to refresh, I'm going to say about 10 years ago is all, maybe a little longer, the amount of money lobbyists paid individual, when you break it down per congressman, the amount of money was $133,000 a year that they...
I remember that figure. We talked about that, yeah.
You know what it is today? $5.8 million.
Oh, my God.
I mean, 5.8, yeah.
From 133,000?
It's 133,000 to where it's today 5.8 million.
What period of time was that?
I'm going to say, I think 10 years, but maybe 15 years, something
even
like
if it's
that.
20 years.
Or even if it's 20.
Even if it were 20 years.
Yeah.
From 133 to 5 point something million?
Yeah, per congressman.
Whoa.
Per congressman. You know, in this bill that was just passed, Congress gave themselves a raise.
I know they did.
And the public, where's the public outcry,
As well there should have been. Yeah.
So anyway, we kind of, we kind of got a lot of frustration out there right now. Okay, now here's the thing that I asked and went over that several times today with several people because they called me like they did during the election. Oh, Trump will never get elected again. All that, right? But here's the question. Here's the way I answer it because I don't want to get into a big discussion. Mm-hmm. But then just ask this. Let's say I asked you right now. I says, I'm not voting for Trump, man. He didn't veto that bill. I'm not voting. Then just ask me this. Just say, well, then who and what are you signing?
Yeah.
Are you going to get? I'm going to look at you and I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
All right. And then the other one is, or I might say, I'm going to sit down. I says, well, then what is it that you would take that risk to end up with a socialist, communist government that takes away what freedom and self-destiny you have today to a life of under communist, socialist slavery? That's it.
Yeah.
What else is there? Because that is the only choice.
That's true. That
So-
is very true.
So you can say, well, I don't like Trump anymore because of this. I'll tell you what it reminds me of, Ray, and you'll relate to this in a heartbeat.
All right.
All right, you go to a big football game out here at Fresno State, and it's a packed house, okay? But Fresno loses. All the fans are disparaging the coach, the players, I mean, the referees. I mean, everybody is disparaging their team.
Yeah.
But what happens the following week? They all show up, and they all cheer when they win. And that's just the way I see it here.
Good analogy. I like that. Yeah.
So what they're all doing right now is disparaging Trump, but by God, they're going to come back to
Oh,
the
yeah.
game.
Oh, absolutely.
And then what
Absolutely.
happens? He wins, and then they're
Absolutely.
going
He
to
is,
cheer again.
you know, what do they say? He is the most photographed man in the world by far.
They asked him. They asked him the other day. Somebody did. They said, "Mr. President, you're back now. You're 25 years old. What advice would you give yourself?
Oh, good question. What did he say?
Do not run for president."
Is that what he said? Yeah.
Never run for president.
You know, it to me, every time I think about it, it just, you know, it makes me know for a fact that he's the right person. I mean, because
Well-
God knows he did not want to do this. He
Well,
did not
no,
want to
and
do
he
this.
didn't have to do it, didn't want to do it,
Yeah.
and so forth. So then you have to get back then to the obvious question then is, for anyone, it's just, okay, if not Trump, then who
Yeah.
and what do you want? If,
I like it when I like that analogy when you said it was something like, "What do you want to see happen in this?" And, well, I want this, this, and this. And you said that's Trump. Trump wants the same things.
Yeah.
You know.
well, yeah, that's
yeah,
another. That's another.
I love
way.
that one, yeah.
What I do with that, if people, like, you know, I want to just cut it off.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in the grocery line, you know,
Uh-huh.
and I said, well, what is it that Trump wants for America and Americans? What is it he wants for them that you do not want for yourself?
It's a beautiful shot. It is beautiful.
You know, and they can't come up
No.
with anything. Well, how could you? Because obviously, all he's doing is America first. He doesn't need any of this.
Yeah.
And boy, but they're trying every way in the world to get rid of him. This Mueller, you know, this
Oh,
whole
gosh.
deal.
Yeah.
That investigation was planned way before the election.
Absolutely.
Okay, and the sole reason for it has nothing to do with Russia. Christ, Russia's been there since Russia, right?
Yeah.
No, it has everything to do with let's see how we can use this to get rid of Trump
From all angles.
from all angles.
It doesn't matter. They
And
come at him.
but what we're finding is some of these people have getting caught in their own web, little by little. Now, this is something that's interesting. Is there's going to be after the what is it? IG report by Horowitz.
Yeah.
Once that is made public, which that keeps getting put off.
Yeah.
Well, and then you get asked this. Well, why are they putting it off? They're taking too long, and they're all over sessions about he takes too long. They're not doing anything. They're not doing. Well, let me ask you this, and you've experienced this firsthand. You go out to an empty lot, you're going to put a mobile home on, and you figure you wake up that day and say, man, by 4 o'clock this afternoon, I'll have it done. I'll have it installed out there. But you get out there and you find out, oh, wow, you start to dig down in the dirt a little bit and you hit a cement slab. Or you hit a water line.
Yeah.
Or you hit a gas line.
You hit something that's going to delay you. You're not going to get it done that day.
So then all of a sudden somebody said, hey, did you get that mobile home installed? You said, man, that's going to be another week. Another week? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Well, they don't understand.
No.
because you can't see what's under the surface.
That's right. Absolutely. Good point.
And so when Sessions and these investigators are gone, they keep digging up stuff they didn't even know was there.
Yeah.
They're hitting, who knows how many water lines and gas lines Sessions has hit.
Absolutely. Good point. Very good point.
So that's why. And he can't do it until he can put it in there.
Yeah.
You know, because he keeps finding new stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Just like you found the water line. Now, if you go into what else Sessions has done, there's already a grand jury. He's got a special prosecutor away from Washington, D.C., away from the press, away from any leaks. Nobody knows who he is except Sessions. And that has already...
It's almost like a movie, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's greater than any movie because there's never been in the history of the United States this much corruption and crookedness throughout the entire. It's the biggest. It's the biggest scandal or the biggest. There's another word for it.
He's going to expose a lot of people.
Well, sure, because I mean our country is not being run the way it was intended to be run at all. Not even close. I mean, did you know about the 500 attorneys until? No, of course not. I didn't either till this morning. You see, now and how much of that keeps going on, and so then they have to investigate because why they hit another water line.
Yeah.
Okay, I go by there 2 weeks later and I said, Ray, my God, I thought you told me you're going to have that thing done in a day. You said, man, Gary, you won't believe this.
Yeah. Yes, I can identify it.
Well, yeah, I figure you could. But that's the thing people have to keep in their mind and think about. They sit there, turn on the TV and watch fake news, and
believe it.
And believe everything that's going in there. And I mean, it's almost like that's 100% sham anymore, you know. But that goes on, Ray. And so what people have to do is sit back, and as they hear all this coming about, and say, well, why or what? And then do a little more introspective of yourself and say, well, what's my alternative?
Yeah. And for God's sake, I mean, when you read or hear something, do your own due diligence on it.
Well,
well,
there's an answer for that. You know, well, Sessions taking too long. Okay, now here's what I noticed about Sessions is that he's not fired yet.
No.
Why is it then all these people Trump has fired? He just fired one yesterday, that General Masters.
Yeah.
He's firing all these people.
Yeah.
And they've all been fired.
Yeah.
How come Sessions hasn't been fired? There must be a reason.
You darn right there is.
You see what I'm saying?
I don't know what it is.
Well,
but there's a reason. You know,
I don't know what it is.
We
either.
can speculate all day long. You know,
and but I think it must have something to do with he must be getting somewhere.
He must be pleasing to him. He must be doing things the right way.
Well, he must be. Yeah. He must be doing something. Mm-hmm. Okay, now he's got. I forget. I hear it all over the board. The amount of indictments that are sealed that he has. Mm-hmm. And now, what does that include? I don't know. You know, but he's got a ton of indictments that are already. These people have. They're just standing by waiting for their mailbox. Now that could go all the way down to the guy that empties wastebasket at the FBI.
Yeah.
Now look, that's Master. He was a leaker.
Yeah.
Boom, he's out of there.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. And like you said earlier about the movie, I don't think there's ever been a movie made this good. And it makes Watergate look like a nursery rhyme.
It does. Gary, we're gonna take a little break here, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back in say 2 and 2. Okay, I'm back with Gary, and we're discussing everything. During the off mic, we were talking about different things, and I don't know, where are we going to start, Gary?
Well, you mentioned what's going to happen with Rocket Man, you know.
Yes.
Well, that's all tied in with the tariffs. And all this time, I may say the last 40 years or so, China's been just literally ripping, as well as others, is ripping the American workers and American citizens off.
Like
you
I
know.
said, they import and export doesn't mean the same thing to them that it means to this country.
Well, try to keep it simple and just look at it this way, and we'll just use 2 words, or actually 4 words. We got Wall Street, and we have mainstream. For all this bulk of time the United States has been in existence, it's really been mainstream. It wasn't until the last, say, 50, 60, 70 years that it became a Wall Street type thing. And put it specifically, it really got into gear with globalization.
Sure.
Who started globalization? Well, I guess it goes way back, but the one that comes to my mind would be George Bush Sr., because he talked about the one world order and globalization.
Yeah.
Okay, and they needed, they needed him to be president, and he had his start at the CIA. You know, so that, I mean, all over the world, his contacts and so forth. But anyway, what that meant was, and this is where we are right today, globalization meant that we had like 60,000 factories, which in essence seemed like perhaps maybe a long time ago, but really it's a short time ago. They're gone. All the workers are gone.
Yeah.
So what Trump is doing is bringing that back, and he's shifting the dynamics from a Wall Street
Absolutely.
paper shuffling society back to a working blue-collar mainstream society. Okay, so what we're experiencing right now in this last year is a shift, an attempted shift, and it is a shift, and one of the keys to it is the tariffs.
Yeah.
Because without, it's not
Makes
fair
sense,
when we're paying tariffs, but they are not paying tariffs. So what does that do? That just totally takes the money right out of everybody's wallet if you're an American.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest benefactors of that has been China. And in essence, when we see what happened to China, which I'm sure you're old enough to remember, I mean, it was everybody dressed in a suit,
Oh, yeah.
in a gray suit, and it was poverty.
Yeah.
How did they go from that to where they are today? I mean, they got smog problems. They didn't even have cars back then.
Yeah.
So that was a shift of the United States, in essence, paying for all that.
Absolutely. Beautifully put.
You know.
Wonderfully
So then we went from a standpoint of Chinese people working in factories. We went to that instead of our people working in factories. And instead of that, our ghetto's growing, not decreasing.
Yes.
So I was just on the way in today, and I noticed that there was a sign that said steel welders wanted.
Interesting.
That's interesting. When's the last time you seen somebody ask a question like that?
Yeah.
You know, you see a help wanted in a coffee
Steel
shop.
welders, yeah.
Yeah, but we're talking about skills that are being begging. Here's what I did think about.
tell
I
me.
says, I never see a sign in front of a college that says professors wanted. Think about
Yeah.
think about that. If that isn't a sham, what is?
You're right, too, Gary. You really are. You are. It is a sham. Jeez.
And so it, that's a whole subject in itself. But the thing is that we have right now with this shift, it is, we're not talking about billions, we're talking about trillions of dollars at stake, of where these people who are all the ones that own, remember what I said about the number, 5.8 million instead of 130,000, which I think why is it anything? I mean, why?
Well, it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be any. It should be zero.
Yeah.
That's what it was for many years in this country. But anyway, we're now at 5.8 million per congressman, per senator. Okay, why do we go to that? And now we're sitting here at a point where our people kept getting, in essence, poorer and poorer, or fewer working, or so forth.
Yeah.
And we make welfare enough to where it's not so bad you can't survive on it. It's better than nothing. But it's not something that's sustainable, because of the one word you used that one time, I'll never forget, was about that lady that says, I have no hope.
Yeah.
It removes the hope.
Yeah.
Okay, now you mentioned that you feel that there's a little different spirit. This is because of hope being reinstalled. Okay.
Excellent. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, now let's get back to the people that are bad-mouthing Trump today because he didn't veto that. Number one, I mean, use some common sense. Can you imagine the chaos and
It
pandemonium?
would be chaos. It would absolutely. You shut this government down
My
at
Lord.
this point?
Now there's where Trump would really he would really hurt himself.
Oh, yeah.
Not with this deal here. I mean, these fans that go to the ball game come back the next week and cheer like crazy.
Yeah.
That's how quick their memory's going to be.
Oh, yeah, I know.
You know, and so when they get back, because they have no choice.
Yeah.
Now you're sitting there complaining like heck, but all of a sudden you just got a tax break
Yeah.
that amounts to an extra $2,000 a year, and you're now going to throw that guy out. Well, who do you got in mind?
Yeah, really.
You see, so that's all
How
just
soon they forget.
that's all just frustration. I don't even worry about you. Mm-hmm. You know, why worry about it? I mean, I looked at that and I hear all this. I go to these websites, I hear all this cackling, go down the coffee shop, all this cackling. I'm thinking, oh my Lord, what a lot of noise.
Oh,
that
I
is.
know it. I know it. I hear it too. I'm with you.
So no, I don't know. Don't worry about it.
I'll tell you what's nice is when you're out, man, and you get such good compliments I get such good compliments for this.
Yeah.
I mean, people say, most people look, they said, do people give you a bad time? I said, they're a minority. You know?
They are, and I was in the grocery store yesterday or the day before, and there was this young Hispanic guy that was, I don't know, passing out a drawing or something. It was some kind of a thing. This right there, and he had tattoos, you know. And I go in there, and I said, he had a newspaper, and I said that he was promoting. And I said, he said, you want to, sign up this, and do you get this? And I said, no, because it's all fake news. And I said, they are anti-Americans. And he looked at me kind of funny, and he said, I said, I think that's all slanted one way. And this shocked me. He says, well, I really like what Trump's doing.
Oh, wow.
I bet this guy was barely 20 years old.
Yeah. I've ran into a few like that.
And he said, man, I like what Trump's doing. Well, if you talk about, we've talked before, just for instance, like the amount of people unemployed that are Hispanic is the lowest it's ever been. The amount of blacks that are unemployed
Same
is
thing.
the lowest it's ever been.
Ever been.
Now, how are those people going to justify going back the other way? By electing who? They don't know who, because there is no who.
No.
There's only one.
No. Absolutely.
At this point.
Good point.
And
it's getting better, and it's going to get better.
Well, and the thing is that as long as you just keep this in mind, I mean, and it's patriotism in a way, or maybe all the way, but the point is, man, this is good for me.
Yeah.
I feel good being American. I get treated right. People are looking out for it. People are trying to make it better. Well, is there evidence of that? Absolutely. Why?
Sure
Because
there
there's
is.
more people at work.
Yeah.
Because there's a sign I'd never seen on 99 before. It said "Steel Welders Wanted."
That had to make you laugh. I bet. Yeah, that is great.
I thought, man, I better, before I get into that show, I'm going to drive out to Fresno State and see how many signs said "Professors Wanted."
Yep, I'm afraid you're not going to say it yet.
So, Ray, I think that we're doing well and getting along, and then that kind of brings up, we'll just touch it, but there's some things that people are not aware of either, and one of them is that white apple thing.
Yes.
And that, I have talked to several people about that, and there again, it's a concept, and it's a little bit tough to you mean to tell me I can do that? Well, if everybody subscribed to the white apple concept, and you're 20, this is where I get a little envious. I'm thinking, man, I wish I was 25, 35 years old again. Because every one of them, if they subscribe to it and have a job, I don't mean some high-paying job, I just mean a regular, good-paying job.
Yeah.
Which you have a good
solid,
standard of living,
steady job.
Steady job, you've been able to raise your family the way you wanted and do the things you wanted, vacation stuff. You will end up a millionaire by the time you're 55 years old.
So that's a great promise. That's
and is it there? No. Do you have to be a genius? Absolutely not. It's easier than any course you ever took in school. Did you take geometry? Yeah, I had to take that my sophomore year in high school. It was hard. Yeah, it was hard. How about chemistry? Yeah, I had to take that, How about just math, period? Did you have to take classes of math and English? Yeah, I did. Was it hard? Yeah. This is easier. Why is it not being taught? That's
Very interesting.
and that's
Good.
what we'll discuss.
Good.
Because once people realize it and realize they don't have to be a wizard,
No.
you know.
It is a great concept, believe me. It really is.
And it's something that can be taught. In fact, I thought about that. I thought, well, what if I was a school teacher and that was my curriculum to teach that year? My God, I wouldn't know what to do after 2 months because I've taught everything that everybody needs to know.
Yeah.
So why, you know what I mean? Everything else would be filler, which is probably pretty much what's going on anyway.
God, Gary, you could always do a book. You know,
Well, you could do a
after
book.
as soon as it hits, and the book would be outstanding. You know?
And but everybody, it's available. Something like that, of course, is available for everybody. Well, Trump got it through, and does he know that? Of course, he knows that's available.
Yeah, we need to talk about why.
And that's part of what is his whole deal about making Americans wealthy.
Yes.
He sees that.
Yeah.
He sees that. Actually, what he really sees, he said, there's no reason for any able-bodied, mentally sane person to not be wealthy
Absolutely.
in America.
Yeah.
Well, it's that way in Dubai.
Yeah.
It's it's that way in Kuwait.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So why can't it be here? Now think about this. Think of the billions and trillions that really got transferred to China that built up 1.5 billion people, standard of living to what it is. And think about, could that have been possible without the United States?
No.
It could
no,
not be
I can
possible.
tell you real quickly. No, absolutely not.
Okay, then if that's true, then where did the money come from? It came from the people in the United States.
Sure it did.
So who do you have now, both Republican and Democrat, that are controlling this country at the, I call the uniparty, with their shadow governments and their deep state and all the rest of the shams that's being put over on the American public, including trying to get rid of who? Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Now, think about that. As composed to what Hillary's deal, the Communist Manifesto, that would be here and has been here for a long time,
Yeah.
including in the indoctrination of our schools,
Sure.
the
That's
propaganda of our
big
media
part
and
of
so
it,
forth.
yeah.
Now think about all that. Now think where we would be, like in our lifetime, think where we'd be if we had Trump back then.
Oh my gosh.
And when we started seeing these opportunities and we started learning more and more. Every time I'd sit there, I think, well, Ray, there's nothing more for us to learn. But every time I come back,
I know.
I learn another thing. You see, and a lot of it is the possibility that people could see now for themselves,
Yeah.
and they awaken. Okay, I told that young kid, I'll tell you about that Hispanic kid. I said, man, you know what? I envy you to no end. And he's there, with his little newspaper. And he's looking at me like, hey, he's envying me. I said, I envy you because at your age, you have an opportunity I could only dream of. I said, because you have the opportunity to live a very solid, wealthy life. And I don't care if you're digging ditches, you're getting paid so much an hour.
That's right. That's right.
And so you put that 20% of that into this program, and by the time you're 55 years old, you're a millionaire. Simple as that. Unless they change it. Well, how? I said,
If they do change it, it's only going to be for the better, I would think.
no. That's where there's a mistake. If they change it, what would the change be? The change would be back to a Hillary.
Oh, I see what
Marxist
you're
type-
saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to change the. There's going to be somebody under Trump, of course.
Yeah.
But you better be careful it's not somebody under Hillary.
Yeah. Because you never know.
And I'm
these
using
days.
that example. Or I use Obama's nothing but a puppet. Because what has to be changed and what is being changed, and they're fighting it like crazy, and they still think they have a chance to win, it's the establishment, both Democrats and Republicans. I don't want to throw rocks at either one of them. Or I will throw rocks at both
Both of them, yeah.
But it's the same people that control this, that control America. And they use this Democrat-Republican just so that we have something to argue about while they're going, we're over there stomping on those ants.
Mm-hmm.
And
We talked about that earlier. While the real stuff's, yeah.
well, they're over there watering elephants,
Yeah.
hoping we don't notice. So anyway, there's a lot of exciting things there, and there's a lot of things that are going to be exposed and uncovered. What we are going to find, and it's going to be discouraging, we're going to find out more and more just how deeply corrupt this government is.
Oh yes, yeah, it's going to be nasty.
And you're going to wonder, how in the world did we get this far, or how are we still existing?
I don't think you or I are going to be just really knocked down by this. I mean, there's going to be things because we're so aware of what's coming,
right.
you know.
But there's going to be a lot of people. And
I know.
And if you look at California is a good example of something that is really amiss, and also a mess. I mean, do you realize we have mayors of cities that are protecting criminals?
It's a sanctuary state. It is. I mean, people they don't want to say it, but it is a sanctuary state.
And the whole point is, where would you ever dream that you would have leaders that would protect criminals, which puts you in danger? Why would they do that?
I say until we get rid of our current governor and our 2 U.S. senators, those 2 ladies, and it seems almost impossible. You know, when you look at the demographics, it's almost impossible to do. But if we could possibly get a Ronald Reagan back in there and get a couple of conservative senators, we could turn this state around. You know.
Well, it's just incredible, and you see it because you're in business for yourself. Because I do talk to other people that are also doing that. The regulation is just like it's every
Oh my
week.
goodness! Yeah. You know, I've got to leave here now and go out to my place and close the deal. And the regulations are just unreal.
Well,
it's
there
just,
you are.
And they're going every day. There's something different.
Well, Ray, you're living proof of that.
Yeah.
You see, and so can you imagine what it would be like if you just even had just half of what you have to put up with now?
Oh my gosh!
And the cost and the efficiency.
This administration is going to help us.
Yeah.
It is. It's going to help us. I think it's already begun. I do. Well, oh my God! Look at the time. Like it happens every week. I say it every week when Gary's on. When I have Gary on, it flies by because he has so many wonderful, interesting things to relate to us. Anyway, as I say every week, pay homage to our law enforcement officers, okay? When you see one, go up, take his hand, shake his hand, and tell him how much we appreciate what you do, because we do. You know, you have a thankless job, and we do appreciate you. So, until we meet again joyously next Friday at 3 p.m., heaven's blessings.
The men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. ValleyTalk.com